Welcome to yet another episode of HospeTalk with Vikas Mehra. Today, I have with me Mr. Rudra Pratap. He is the COO of Ahuja Residency. Let's have a word with him. Hi sir, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and then being a part of this podcast. So sir, my first question to you is, tell us about your journey. I mean, how did it started?
Sure. So I'm basically someone who grew up in a small town, middle class family in Jamshedpur, and had never been to any big city till after my 12th. It was always a dream to visit one of the metros, Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta. As luck would have it, my career in hotels took me to each of those metro cities and beyond. So it was quite interesting and fortunate growing up in the 80s and 90s, not necessarily the most prominent career choice, but hotels happened, and when it happened, it was fantastic. It's been a remarkable journey for 2.5 decades.
Wonderful. You've mentioned, sir, that you came a city like from Jamshedpur.
Right.
So according to you, I mean, what
Yes.
does it actually takes
Yes.
to be succeeding into our industry?
Sure. So actually, that's a very good question. This industry is, in my opinion, not necessarily for everyone. It takes a certain, and it's important because there are different kinds of attributes. This is for people who enjoy working with people. I remember once talking to my financial controller. Boss, you come to work in the morning, you sit in a room with no windows and 8 घंटे तक आप computer पे बैठे हो. If I was doing that, I would feel like I'm in jail. So he started laughing. He says, I can't do your job, you can't do my job. So this is a job for people that enjoy working with people, and that I think is at the core of what we do as hoteliers. Yeah.
Done. And sir, आपके हिसाब से, what do you think? हमारी इंडस्ट्री का फ्यूचर कैसा है?
Very remarkable, because जो changes, stuff that we have seen, how it has evolved in the last 5, 10, 15 years, how the traditional hoteliers have seen the evolution of Airbnb and the Fab and Tribo and Oyo. Not all of it may have succeeded very well, but it's a very, very democratic place now, and it is possible to get good hotel rooms at all different price points. आज से 20 साल पहले, if you were looking for good hotel rooms, neat, clean, quality of experience, you had limited choice. आज के डेट में there is plenty of choices.
And sir, according to me, right?
Yes.
हर एक लीडर का अपना एक सीक्रेट है, and that is in terms of keeping their team engaged
Right.
and happy.
Right.
So what's your secret?
Right.
I mean, you cannot deny it.
Right. Well, I don't know if it is a secret or not, but it's like हर एक की अपनी, there is their own unique way of doing it. And for me, it has always been a few basic values. The first of which is, you give respect, you get respect. And that is very important. The second is, of course, when your team sees you working shoulder to shoulder, which is again an essence of the hospitality business, what we were taught: take off your jacket, roll up your sleeves when the situation requires. And those are basic values that have always helped out. Treat people with respect, not just the customer in front of you, but even the people you're working with, and even the security guard, the steward, the kitchen steward. Everyone matters, everyone is an individual. Know their name, talk to them, take time with them.
Like Abhi sir, currently you are currently designated as COO,
Right.
But first time when you've got your managerial tag,
Right.
like tag,
Right.
how did it felt?
Overjoyed because you're working for it so long. But what it reminds me of is, for a lot of youngsters out there, when you're working when you start off in college or in the early stages, it's like there was a study that says कि पुलिस वालों की जो ट्रेनिंग होती है, almost 60, 70, 80% of their physical training and shooting and all of that is rarely used in their field. So maybe less than 20% of the time do they put their 80% of their training to use, but it is still important. So when you start off in the hotel industry at entry level positions, a lot of the things that you learned about management, you don't necessarily get to use it till much later. And the first time you get to start using the very basics of it is when you get what was important in the old days, jab kala coat milta hai. So yeah, there was a little bit of fear, but with the kind of inputs we had from Taj, an institution to which I gave a lot of credit. Globally, wherever I went, if I succeeded, it was because of the foundation that Taj in the beginning and Marriott subsequently gave me.
Done. My question says that there is anything you would like to change in the industry, but I want two from you. So one is I really want you to talk on sustainability. I mean, how we can carry this.
Right. Sure. So sustainability is big, but before that, one of the things that are very important and will become more so in the future, already it is showing, is finding frontline staff. And the problem with that is that the value for skills, frontline positions in our country continues to be a challenge. There is a respect for skills. So if you're looking for a plumber or a carpenter in America or Europe, what you pay is top dollars. In India, that is not necessarily true because the environment we provide to our frontline people in terms of salaries and perks and privileges is very limited. So as the situation changes, companies are compelled to go back and look at new places to hire from, which is happening. But eventually there will come a point where, and the best of the companies are doing that. They are looking at how to take care, whether it is number of hours, what kind of salaries, mental health, physical health, all of that is important. So that is first. And it is important for us as industry to look into it because that's the core. We cannot succeed without it. The second is sustainability. Historically, as an industry, we have been people that have contributed humongous amounts to food waste, and our energy efficiency, water efficiency was nothing to write home about. And like it happened with Coca-Cola in Tamil Nadu, where there is freshwater scarcity, there was a community revolt against them, and then they went back, and today Pepsi and Coke, they are both water neutral or water positive. So as an industry, we are already seeing change. ITC is zero energy, it's green energy, 100% renewable energy in terms of what we are doing for water or waste handling and stuff. So we need to continue to become conscious of the communities we work in, how we add value to it, and how less of an impact we have, how smaller our carbon footprint is. So fortunately, in this property where we are sitting and talking, this is a proof of concept. So when Jaideep Ahuja, my boss, decided to build it, there was a lot of internal debate. All that is fine, that's a fad, but the customer eventually looks at location, product, service, and price, and that is what really matters. But after having built it, what we find in the marketplace is a very clear preference and a premium for the sustainability that is built into the DNA of this property, Air by Ahuja Residency.
Done, sir. And talking about youth, right? I mean, the young travelers. Unko hamesha se, I mean, they always gets attracted to if the place is Instagrammable.
Yes.
So, I mean, how would you, I mean,
yes.
We are talking about sustainability. So within these parameters, there is any possibility, or
Absolutely.
have you managed to do so?
Right. First, let me correct you. I'm not sure if you can put me into young travelers. I'm 50, so I'm right about middle. But yeah, what is important is the younger generation tends to be even more well informed about sustainability, and the Instagram part that you spoke about. As an industry, we have been kind of conservative. I'm still wearing a color coat and a tie and, Bostonians down there as shoes. But what happens is, we were discussing on design philosophy for a new restaurants we are designing, and one of the key things that came up is create Instagrammable locations.
Okay.
When we did this property, again, by virtue of the design philosophy that was followed, there are elements built in which were not originally maybe considered for Instagram purposes. The other thing with the Instagrammable generation is, आज के डेट में they will want to connect with you on all kinds of channels. So they will leave you a message on Facebook chat, on Instagram, and as an industry we are getting there. I mean, maybe the best already have their game in place. Some are getting there, others are still trying to figure out. We need to be able to engage with the Instagrammable generation through channels that they prefer to engage. So they want answers instantly, they want to be able to chat on Instagram. So yeah, that's something we are working on.
Done. And the next one is, sir, according to you, एक ideal hospitality professional,
Yes.
how would you describe it?
Well, so I would go ahead and share some attributes, but when I'm doing so, I would also want, especially youngsters in the industry to know that there are many different ways to, survive and thrive in this industry. So it takes all different shades of gray or blue or all colors. But some of the key attributes is that this is an industry where, a people orientation is very important. If you like working with people, this is the place. If you are not someone happy working with people, this may or may not be the best place for you in terms of seeking happiness. The other is, this is an industry that requires a certain amount of stamina and energy. When the rest of the world is celebrating Holi, Diwali,
Yes.
Or New Year's for that matter, you're often at work. If you enjoy doing that, you will not necessarily feel that you're missing out on it. The energy that you derive, even if you worked for 10 hours or 12 hours at the job, and you spend 15 minutes chatting with a customer or a guest, and you connect at a human to human level, energizes you. You can pull in another couple of hours, and that is the important part. So it requires a certain amount of stamina and energy. It requires people orientation, and those are two of the key things I would say.
I must say that you are making my job much easier, because my next question was, name any 5 skills, right?
Right.
Which are must have in
Okay.
a hospitality profession.
Right.
But you already
Right.
did answer that, right?
Right.
According to me again, right, हमारे जितने newcomers हैं, they always seek advice, right? और बहुत दी भी जाती है. But then again, according to you, I mean, if you are a newcomer, right? So what sort of advice you would require?
Very interesting. So here's how I look at it. I associate our industry, I got drawn into it because I felt a sense of glamour, and that is true.
Yes.
But always behind glamour, there is a lot of hard work. This podcast that you do, the back end of it does not necessarily show through. It takes a lot of effort to put it together. So there are a couple of things that are very important. First is, this is an industry that is very rewarding if you enjoy doing what you're doing as a hospitality person, but there is no substitute for the early hard work that you put in. That is important. The get rich quick is, if you're looking at that, this is not the industry. The other is, when you are working, it is sometimes you'll see people who go through a burnout, and that is the sad part, because you've sometimes run 50, 75, 85% of the race, and then if you fall out, it's
Yes.
kind of sad. When it comes to the burnout, what I have to say is, a reward comes if you stay put. There are some people that get discouraged because they see that people that have great communication skills or English or connections, they have family or friends that are in the industry, gaining and getting ahead. But the fact is that What matters is an ability to communicate, not necessarily the quality of English that you use. Especially when you step out of India, and more so even in India today. If you can connect with people, that is what matters. And when you keep doing it, at certain point, you keep doing the right thing, you cross a tipping point. And that is when success starts coming in.
Okay.
But it is important to stay put to cross the tipping point. So that would be my recommendation. If you're in the industry, you've spent a few years, stay put, good times will come. There will be good and bad times, but it's well worth it if you have enjoyed working in the industry.
Nicely said, sir. And according to you, what movie or book you would recommend?
Movie or book? Okay. Do people still read books?
I do.
Okay. There's some of the ones that I've read that were particularly interesting. There is very old book by Arthur Haley called Hotel that was turned into a movie. So the movie is a lovely movie if you want to watch it. People are more visual today than books.
Yes.
Then there is, of course, two other books I would recommend. One is the biography of M.S. Oberoi. I think Dare to Dream? No, something like that. I've forgotten the name exactly. I think
Certainly.
Dare to Dream.
I'll get it Googled and then put
Yeah.
it on the podcast for sure.
Yeah. And the third is a very interesting one. The brand which, if you ask me today, is number one in hospitality, due respect to Ritz-Carlton, but I'm talking about Four Seasons. So the biography of Isidore Sharp, Izzy Sharp, that is a remarkable book. So once again, I don't remember the name, but I've read the book. Very interesting book, how his father, who immigrated into America, built his life, and the value systems, and how Four Seasons emerged as a very atypical, non-typical hotel company to one day become the gold standard in the business.
And let me take you back to your college days.
Yes.
So before doing your industrial training and after doing your industrial training,
Yes.
what changes were there in your point of views?
Very interesting question. When you have had an opportunity, and I'm thankful to Taj for that, had an opportunity to have a good exposure in industrial training, you come out transformed. The first transformation I had was about attendance, punctuality, reliability. When you're in college, you bunk a class, you skip a day. And I remember we were working during internship in Goa during peak season, which is very high demand period, and I think I skipped a day. When I went back the other day, the restaurant manager at Seashell at Fort Aguada took me around and showed me his team. And there were people that were, 5th class or 10th class pass, and they had been at work for 8 years, 12 years, 16 years, and hardly any absences. He said, if you were not in a mood to come in, just call and inform. It's not that I'm going to, throw you out of the job or something, but you allow me the ability and opportunity to then go ahead and plan for how I will manage your not being there. That is all I'm asking you. And that day I realized the value of turning up and being counted. So if you're not going to be there, at least pick up the phone and call your boss and explain what your situation is. He or she may get angry, but eventually they will get over it. And that makes a huge difference. When you become a reliable team player, everyone appreciates around you. Because even your colleagues who have to work extra because you did not turn up and you did not inform, don't necessarily enjoy the experience. So the first was reliability, and that credit goes to Felix Fernandez. I've been out of touch for, I think, 3 decades now. The other transformation which also happened there was, I was serving on a table which was mostly Europeans and a couple of Indian hosts that were there. And I was serving, I think, Malai kofta or something like that. And one of the German guests happened to ask, what is this dish? And in my mind, I'm trying to think how I'm going to tell him, and I'm telling myself these are balls of potatoes and cottage cheese, and I'm like, this does not sound right. So I was hesitating, and the captain of the restaurant stepped forward and said, sir, these are potato and cottage cheese dumplings in such and such sauce, and it sounded so remarkable, and I was like, wow, this is so much better than balls of potatoes and cottage cheese. And that day I realized the value of attention to detail. That description was exactly what was there in the menu, but the articulation of it made a huge difference. So that attention to detail, whether it is, how you tuck in the bed sheet or ruffle the pillows or the description on the menu, if you do it right, and you've got to keep doing it. It is like riyaz, it is like, practice, whether you're Virat Kohli or whatever, you practice each day, every day, that makes you that much better at your job.
And you won't even believe it, and that is what we were discussing it before the podcast started. These are the only reason that I've started it, right? That balls of and then I think it shows the experience.
Right.
That is what that is the one of the biggest reason that I've started the podcast.
Right.
But thank you so much for putting it very nicely. And this is one of my favorite question. I've got quite a few, but this is one of the favorite.
Okay.
What does not exist in the world but you would like it to?
Oh wow. That's a tough one. What does not exist and you would like it? I'm not sure if that's something you were expecting, but I believe a certain amount of compassion. And not to boast about it, but it kind of gets ingrained in the hospitality business. I remember I was once walking through a store at a Macy's somewhere in New Jersey, and you're trained to make eye contact and smile, and not just that store, it has happened multiple times. So when you do that, gentleman walks over and he says, do you have this suit in size 42? And I'm like, I don't work here. I think we'll have to look for someone who works at Macy's. But when you connect as an individual to individual, and hospitality many times allows you to do that with your guests, you make friends for life. You get connected to people that you may meet 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later. But when they do, it's like meeting an old friend. And that is because you connected at a human to human level. And that is important. That is at the core of well-being. As individuals, we are social people. So connecting with your vendors, connecting with your guests, customers, connecting with your team, that compassion is what would, in my opinion, make the world a better place. It's still there, but there is tremendous room for us to improve in that area.
AI, artificial intelligence, बहुत शोर है.
Right.
What are your take on it?
बहुत शोर है. There is some substance to it. So I remember first time at Marriott when kiosks were brought in for check-ins and check-outs, and there were people saying one day people will get eliminated. What will be the need for receptionists when the kiosk can handle everything? The kiosks are still there, the reception staff is still there, and they coexist. And both of them contribute, people use both. So the AI is definitely going to make an impact. We have been, in fact, experimenting with a new AI software called Rankly that allows us an omni-channel communication, the ability to, from one platform, respond to Insta and Facebook and, the comments on Make My Trip and Google and TripAdvisor and everything gets into one platform.
Right.
And it is AI enabled. So it trains you, suggests you how to respond to a particular comment. Remarkable, very remarkable. So it is going to become a tool and an aid, but rarely have I seen a tool or an aid replace what is the primary. So it's like PowerPoint. PowerPoint is a great tool, but if you start relying on PowerPoint to communicate your central idea, you may not necessarily succeed, because a tool is a tool. And that is important. So the presenter and the message that he's presenting is important. Good presenters without any tools can do a remarkable job. but the best of the tools may or may not be able to do the same kind of a job.
Done. And I'm sure sir, जब बड़े हो रहे थे आप,
Right.
मुझसे तो बहुत बार पूछा गया, आपसे भी पूछा गया होगा कि बेटा बड़े होकर क्या बनेंगे. So what you used to say?
Quite funny you should ask that. It's been a long time someone has asked me. So for me it was collector, because I think as a young kid I had seen some collectors convoy of, you know, security car and staff car and everything, and I was very impressed. Yeah, but I have no regrets, never went down that line. I've loved what I am doing, continue to love what I'm doing, and feel very fulfilled about what I do.
And sir, what I have observed is, right, जब आप hierarchy में ऊपर जाते हो धीरे धीरे, right, then of course the work pressure is there.
Yes.
Right, I mean,
Yes.
this is how I think our industry has always been.
Yes.
Right. So how do you keep a balance between professional and personal life?
That's a tough one. I'll be honest, it becomes difficult. And if you have a spouse or family that it supports you, it becomes easier. I would be grateful to my wife and my family for that. They have been a tremendous source of support because of the understanding they have. However, having said that, what I realize is being able to do two things. One, create your me time, and do, you know, that helps you take care of the rest of the stress easily.
The personal space.
Yes, and I have seen some people do that late at night after everything is done. Other people do it early in the morning. I, for one, like to do it early in the morning. The first 1 hour is mine, whether I choose to do nothing or I choose to do what I like. And it may be completely wasting time, it may be meditation, it may be exercises, walking, jogging, whatever it is. But that is mine. And that sets the tone for the rest of the day, and you, even if things are going crazy, you don't really feel completely out of control. You kind of sort of have your hands on things. So between creating that me time for yourself and rest of everything also matters. So physical work, meditation also helps you out, but you can only do that when you create the me time. And then having a support system between friends or family, ideally both of you can get, is what I find has been successful. So, you know, it's remarkable. During the most stressful times in my career, especially during the early days, I found two things that were absolutely therapeutic. You know, when we would work 12 hours, 14 hours,
Yes.
sometimes 16 hours a day, and you were doing full-time work and assignments. One was, if you're really getting overwhelmed, get in connect with nature. Step away, get in connect with nature. The other was, you know, and what I would do is connect with one of the colleagues at work that had a young child at home. Go to their home, spend half an hour with a child, any child, you know, that is from an infant to a toddler, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It is amazing how it can recharge your batteries. You know, you come back completely refreshed. So those two were things that work for me.
And then how do you deal with stress then? I'm sure मुझे होता है कि then I've got my own things
Right.
to take care. I mean,
Right.
I don't talk to anyone.
Right.
I make sure, right?
Right.
And then I, you know, go into my own things.
Right.
You know, just sit down, as you've mentioned. And this is usually more or less likely that I won't do anything.
Right.
And when I say anything, means nothing.
Right.
I won't even touch my phones, nothing. I'll just sit or maybe close my eyes, and then that's it.
Right.
So how do you deal with the stress?
You know, having dealt with it for so many years, it kind of becomes easier to compartmentalize it. But at the end of the day, stress is in the mind, and there is a certain value to, you know, the body of thought and knowledge that exists about how to work with your mind, whether it is meditation, whether it is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and including some of the very early books. I'm forgetting the author's name right now. I'll probably find it and share it with you. That talk about being, how to gain control of your mind and your thoughts, and most importantly, your responses. Probably there was one book I started which I could never finish. I found it too difficult to finish. It's a book by Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you've heard of it. He was a doctor and he was in the Nazi concentration camps. He was a Jewish doctor. And he was given some of the most difficult tasks of checking after the gas chambers were opened that everyone was dead and disposing of the bodies. Most people perished within a few months of arriving at concentration camps. This was a person who survived it all, and it's a very interesting story of how he was able to train his mind, and he would envision what he would be doing after he left the concentration camp, although the possibility of it was almost close to zero for most people, but he would still think of that, and he would envision himself talking about it at a university as a professor or talking to people. And somehow he was able to train his mind that he survived an extended period of time by being able to gain control over his mind. For me, it was a very difficult book, so I kind of left it halfway, but it's one of the major books coming out of the Western thought system on how to work with your mind.
Done. And sir, what is your favorite interview question and why?
My favorite interview question and why?
I told you I'm going to put you in a difficult
spot.
Put
you in a spot, okay. So I think you've got a great set of questions. I really can't put my finger on any one as a favorite. But the one that you said, anything in this world that doesn't exist and you would want it to exist, that caught me by surprise. That has to be a favorite one. That's thought-provoking. I would want to, it plays on my mind.
That's it. And last, just wanted to play a rapid fire with you, right?
Okay.
So I'll just say a word, and the immediate word you caught up in your mind, you have to say it.
Okay.
So shall we start?
Sure. Is there a hamper to win?
Well, certainly not. But yes,
okay.
It's a good idea. I'll start.
Absolutely.
I have to.
No Yeah.
So hotel.
Glamour.
Training.
Mentoring.
Team.
Secret to success.
Mobile phone.
Tool of enslavement.
Mentor.
Friend, philosopher, guide.
Holiday.
Nothing to do. I don't like holidays where you have planned, we'll go here, we'll go there, and we'll eat here and stay there.
Guest.
A potential friend.
Designation.
Becoming irrelevant. What you do matters more than the designation.
Work.
Means for fulfillment.
Weekly off. That is the only reason I put it at last. Weekly off.
Weekly off.
I would say everything.
Everything, and time to mark attendance at home. Yeah.
Done, sir. Thank you so much. Right. Amazing. I'm sure our viewers, students, the hospitality professional, your answers, hopefully, help them to understand the industry better, how to carry themselves, right?
Sure.
That is the only agenda I do these podcasts, right? So once again, sir, thank you so much. It was really,
thank you.
Lovely.
And what you're doing, Vikas, is really remarkable. In this day and age where everyone is busy, we were, when we started in the 90s, fortunate enough to work with exceptional professionals who were able to give us time. Today the professionals, the seniors are also hard pressed for time, and the youngsters at entry level positions are also constantly on a treadmill running the rat race. Potentially some of the inputs that you're able to provide through these podcasts would be valuable So the work you're doing is really remarkable, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir,
Wonderful.
for your kind words.
Right.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.